Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll make a start if we may. It's great to see so many people here. I hope we continue in that vein. I'm Councillor Ian Thorne. I'm the leader of the Council and Chairman of the Cabinet, and I will be presiding over the meeting, and I confirm, I'm going to look to Kieran at this point, that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live. Are we live now, Kieran?
We are.
Excellent. Before the meeting begins, I'd like to ask each Cabinet member to confirm their attendance for those watching on the live stream, and then can I ask all the other contributors to introduce themselves when they come to the point of contributing. So I'm Ian Thorne, the leader of the Council. I'm going to turn to Mel and then we'll head down the table.
Okay. All right. I'm Mel Jacob, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for a range of things which I can't possibly read out, but includes leisure, culture, community engagement and corporate, and some other things I've probably forgotten.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Gavin Grant, Cabinet Member for Finance.
Good morning, Claire Cape, Councillor for Chippenham and Pewsham, Cabinet Member for Public Health and Coordination with the NHS. Thank you.
Morning, Helen Belcher, Cabinet Member for Economic Development, Regeneration and Assets.
Good morning, my name is Councillor Gordon King, and I'm Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Adrian Foster. I'm Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Development Management and Housing.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Sample and I'm Cabinet Member for Environment, Climate Change and Waste.
Good morning, Councillor John Hubbard. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Skills.
And thank you very much indeed. I'm now going to formally open the meeting. I'd like to encourage all those watching on the live stream, also those that wish to access the agenda and the agenda supplement, which is available on the Council's website. So I'm going to move to item 1, which is apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Martin Smith, who is not in the room today, but is beaming in via the technology. So Martin will be here and is indeed here. Good morning, Martin. Can you hear us okay? You can?
I can indeed. Thank you.
Excellent. We might need a little bit more volume from Martin. Okay, fine. Good to see you, Martin. Good morning. We'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. As you can imagine, none of us around this table were directly party to the minutes of the previous meeting, but I'm advised that we can accept them, and I move that they are approved. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you very much. All those in favour of the minutes of the last meeting? Great. That was the easy bit, wasn't it, frankly? Are there, at item 3, any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Then I'll move on to item 4, leaders' announcements. I have 2 announcements I want to make. One is to advise members of an extraordinary Cabinet meeting that is diaried for the 24th of June, where we will consider the financial outturn for 24-25. And all the various other papers that come with that particular discussion. So the entire Cabinet meeting will focus on those particular papers. And then the second announcement I want to make is that and it was one of the issues that were raised by members in the last Council, and that was the opportunity for members to attend Cabinet to ask questions without notice. It was a tradition of previous councils, but something that was lost in the last Council. So I intend to reintroduce an opportunity for members to raise questions without notice at Cabinet meetings. This will happen at the first regular next Cabinet meeting on the 8th of July. My intention is there will be a 20-minute session at the beginning of every Cabinet meeting to ask questions which are relevant to the work of the Council. I won't be giving tips on the National Lottery or advice on beekeeping, but we will take questions on matters of the Council. And this will be a matter of, I'm told it's described as custom and practice, as opposed to anything that requires a change in the Constitution. So from the 8th of July, there will be opportunities to ask questions without notice. I now move on to item 5, which is public participation questions from members. We have 3 questions from Margaret Wilmot, who I assume has received a written response.
Yes.
I'm not sure if Margaret's with us. She's not. Therefore, Martin, on his yacht, wherever he is, won't need to respond to statements or a comment from Margaret. I do know that we have Andrew Nicholson with us from the Wiltshire Climate Alliance, who's asked if he can make a statement and ask a question. We haven't had any notice of that, Andrew, but I'm happy to accept it on this occasion. If you'd like to come forward, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And this is at short notice, and I apologise for that. My statement will include a couple of rhetorical questions. I'm aware that it's too late to ask questions formally. As you know, your council is partnering with Wiltshire Climate Alliance and to some extent Swindon Borough Council to put on in this building the Wiltshire Climate and Environment Summit with the wholehearted support of the previous administration and the individual support of its leader. And I'm sure the wholehearted support of this administration. Wiltshire's climate, thank you, Councillor Sample. Wiltshire's climate team has worked very, very hard with excellent contributions from comms, IT, facilities management and others. Now, the Friday is the business day, the Saturday, the communities day, the 21st of June. I'll be frank with you, we had one of our many meetings yesterday with the climate team, and we are underselling tickets to the business day. Now, the business community in Wiltshire and Swindon is crucial to the entire economy and to the decarbonisation of Wiltshire as a county. And I was pleased to hear your leader, Councillor Thorne, speaking on radio the other day about your unwavering commitment to the 2030 target. And you have acknowledged as a council, as Wiltshire has acknowledged as a council, that although as an organisation it's ahead of its target, as to the county we are behind our targets. So businesses, cabinet members, businesses are your delivery providers, your service providers, your suppliers, and sometimes your customers. We would love to ask for your support as cabinet members in working your networks, working your senior management team networks to point out the excellence of the programme that your council climate team with us has developed for the Friday the 20th of June business day. You are, of course, all invited to attend both days, and staff, cabinet, senior managers and so on. Tickets are available at the link. The business day is £20, which just covers the food and drink. The communities day is £0 plus the opportunity to donate for community groups, which will include schools, churches, town and parish councils and other community entities. That again is an excellent programme. So my first rhetorical question is this. Businesses and community organisations are being asked to come forward and raise their game. We want to support them. Climate Team wants to support them in decarbonising in order to adapt and thrive. Wouldn't it be a shame if Wiltshire Council's many functions were the only entities at the summit not to give commitments to raise their game? And I challenge cabinet members to think about what you deliver and the many organisations that work with you to deliver that, and see if you can't make some commitment, maybe not measurable, but meaningful, that you can bring as a function of the council to the climate summit on the Friday or on the Saturday to show that Wiltshire Council is with the community, is with the business and the economy community in the county, so that we all raise our game and increase the pace, so that this administration shows that it is leading and not following in its commitment to the climate summit. The second rhetorical question is, would you consider beefing up your procurement requirements, because Wiltshire's are among the weaker procurement requirements as to sustainability and environment, so that your suppliers know now and in advance that they will be called upon to show their commitment and their achievement in decarbonising, and that they have a path to net zero.
Andrew, thank you very much indeed. I love rhetorical questions because we don't have to answer them, obviously. That's very helpful. Thank you. Can I say a couple of things? Firstly, and I don't think there is any doubt that the commitment of the last administration to addressing the climate emergency in every way that we practically can continues with this administration. So there's no doubt about that at all. First. Second, it's the event on the Friday is in my diary, so I'm very much looking forward to it. And I would certainly encourage colleagues across the committee room to help publicise the event if they possibly can, using any context they may have. We'll come back to you on the issue of procurement because it wasn't a rhetorical question, really, was it, Andrew? And we'll come back to you on that rather than me giving you an off-the-cuff answer now. I'm just going to turn to my colleagues on Cabinet to see if there anything else you want to add. Councillor Sample and then Helen.
Yes, I very much appreciate the I like rhetorical questions as well, and I'm looking forward to the event. I'm down to come on the afternoon on Friday, and I will be there all day on Saturday. I know many members of my group are interested in coming. I have already mentioned it to them, and I will endeavour to see whether we can communicate with all members of the council to encourage them to come along. As regards the offering something meaningful from the meeting, for the meeting to show that we are leading, not following, on climate change and carbon reduction, I will ask the operators on what advice they can provide on that.
Thank you, Councillor Sample. Thank you.
Councillor Belcher.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, lovely rhetorical questions, Andrew. Always fun. I've just asked our comms team whether we can put Wiltshire Council's weight behind promoting or giving a bit more beef to that. And I've just literally had a response saying, yes, we can. So we should be able to do something to aim more specifically at businesses to try and encourage folks to attend on the Friday.
Thank you, Councillor Belcher. The comms team has already done sterling work, and our fear is that bulk emails and so on don't always do as much as individual approaches from individuals with commitments, with networks, with leadership, whether it's in your cabinet role or whether it's in your community area. Thank you.
And indeed, there could be people listening and watching on the live stream who see the opportunity as well. Andrew, as always, good to see you. Thank you for coming. See you on, I think it's Friday week, of course, isn't it? So thank you very much indeed. I'm going to move us on to item 6, the safety valve update April monitoring report on pages 9 to 30. I'm going to invite Councillor John Hubbard to introduce the report, John. But before I do that, I'm going to turn to Councillor Mel Jacob, who just wants to make a quick statement.
Apologies, I should have mentioned that I currently am employed part-time by a multi-academy trust, so I do have some indirect interest in the item, and I forgot to say it earlier. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. John.
Thank you, Leader. Good morning, colleagues. So I'm pleased to present our safety valve update, which demonstrates both significant progress and the ongoing challenges we face in delivering sustainable SEND services for Wiltshire's children and young people. We've inherited a system that has shown recent operational improvements. The EHCNA backlog has been reduced from 356 cases in May 2024, I beg your pardon, to 36 today, which provides us with a cleaner foundation to build upon. Some early intervention services introduced previously are beginning to show signs of impact. EHCNA requests appear to be stabilising and no to assess rates are improving. However, we recognise that there's significant scope to accelerate and expand these initiatives under our leadership. We've also inherited positive relationships with partners like the Wiltshire Parent Carer Council, which gives us a stronger platform for the more ambitious transformation we intend to deliver. While previous initiatives like the Medical Needs Toolkit have been well received, we see this as just the beginning of what we can achieve. However, I won't sugarcoat our financial position. Our cumulative deficit has grown to 61.2 million this year, and we're not on track to meet the original 5-year safety valve targets. This isn't unexpected. We submitted our revised 7-year plan precisely because we recognise that the sustainable change takes time when you're determined not to compromise on outcomes for children. The critical issue facing us, and indeed councils across England, is the statutory override that expires in April 26. Without clarity from government about how the 96 million of deficit will be managed, this remains our single biggest financial risk. We simply cannot absorb this level of debt within our existing reserves. We've now received the DfE's response to our extension request. While ministers won't extend safety valve agreements, they will accept extensions to sustainability plans. Crucially, this shifts the focus from rigid annual targets to a more outcomes-focused approach, asking whether we're delivering appropriate support and moving towards balance rather than hitting arbitrary deadlines. This change in emphasis is welcome and aligns with our approach of prioritising children's outcomes whilst building financial sustainability. I must highlight the uncertainty around the Special Free Schools programme. These schools, a 130-place SEMH school and an 80-place AP provision, are integral to our plans, yet we have no formal confirmation of their status despite verbal indications that they're paused. We need clarity from central government to either proceed or develop alternatives. Under our new leadership, the next few weeks will be critical as we develop our approach to these challenges. Whilst we're expecting government announcements in the comprehensive spending review that should clarify the statutory override position, we won't wait passively for Westminster to act. Our administration is committed to accelerating the transformation agenda, expanding successful interventions more rapidly, and taking a more ambitious approach to system change. We see significant opportunities to build on what exists and to deliver the step change that Wiltshire's children with SEND deserve. What I can assure Cabinet is that under our leadership, we will pursue every avenue to reach financial balance by 2030-31, while building an even more inclusive system. We have the partnerships, we have a foundation to build on, and we have the political will to drive transformational change. Leader, I'm happy to take any questions on aspects of this report.
Thank you, John. Can I invite members of Cabinet to make contributions? I'm going to turn to Councillor Grant and then take any other comments from Cabinet colleagues.
Thank you very much. Ian, well, it would be unsurprising if I didn't flag for colleagues paragraph 44 in particular, which is headed financial implications, and the attached table immediately below it. And you've just heard from Councillor Hubbard that the grim reality that if we don't have commitment from government going forward, and I was about to say we may only have 24 hours to wait, but I suspect that the wait may be a little longer than that, colleagues, until we do get that clarity, then the situation is a serious one, not only for this local authority, but frankly for every local authority that has educational responsibilities across the land. And I'm sure the government is very well aware of that, and I'm sure that our members of parliament of all political stripe are ensuring that if they're not aware of it, they become aware of it very quickly. As an administration, we are taking this very seriously, as you know, and as you've just heard from Councillor Hubbard, and it's my pleasure just to flag up that we have Councillor Andrew Griffin sat in the back row there, who is our first portfolio holder who has responsibilities for finance, which is my cabinet task, as colleagues know, and Andrew will be paying particular attention to safety valve as one of the most serious threats to this council, in fact candidly the most serious threat to the council. So we await government announcements with keen interest. The commitment of the leadership of the council and of our excellent officer team is very clear. It's laid out in this plan. Moving to a level of sustainability is exactly where we need to get to. We are in service of the most vulnerable people in this county, whether they be adults or, in this case, our young people. And I pay tribute to the long-standing commitment that Councillor Hubbard has made to that, and look forward to working with him to ensure that we not only continue to deliver, but in the context of my responsibilities for this council, that we deliver that in a way that is financially sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Any other contributions from Cabinet? Mel.
Obviously, I'm aware that it's a huge challenge, and I, in my old life, I attended some of the consultations about the safety valve original plan that was involved, and it strikes me that there's a huge wealth of knowledge within schools and multi-academy trusts. They're grappling with the same issues with the increase of children with high needs. Do we have plans in place to work with MATs and schools further to try and find solutions and maybe find ways to share costs or look at imaginative ways of tackling the cost of SEN and high need? And you may not have the answer now, I realise, John.
Well, I mean, partnerships are what we're committed to, and there's no way that we're going to be able to deliver what needs to be delivered without working very closely with our schools partners. In fact, I'm at Schools Forum tomorrow afternoon, and I look forward to hearing some of the feedback from schools there, both secondary and primary sector, about what they feel can be done to take things forward. But you're absolutely right. For us to be able to deliver and to be able to take this forward, we have to work in partnership with people across the spectrum. There is the SEND network that brings together various partners, and I think it would be wise to see how we can strengthen any school's involvement. But particularly we have to recognise MATs is a new world, and MATs are becoming larger, they're becoming more powerful in what they do, and it may be how we work with one MAT may be different to how we work with another, but we've got to look at how we can develop those partnerships and grow those relationships.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you, John. Before I open up the debate, there's a couple of things I want to say in terms of this particular issue. Firstly, just to confirm what you've heard already in terms of how serious and critical we take this particular issue. Sitting where Dominic's sitting now, it occurred to me that if one thing would keep us as a council collectively awake at night, it would be this issue. As we will have heard in constant debates about it over months and years, this is an issue affecting many, many local authorities, which doesn't make it any better, but it does present some degree of context. And I don't think that Dominic may disagree, but I don't think this perhaps is a political football. It never was for me. I think it's about ensuring the long-term viability and sustainability of this council, at the same time ensuring that we absolutely respond to the needs of children, whatever their circumstances. So I'm going to move on, if I may, to Councillor Graham Wright for any comments he may have. This paper hasn't got to Children's Select because we're still waiting for the first Children's Select meeting. Good morning, Graham.
Good morning, Leader. Yes, as you'd all be aware, we started scrutiny in 2024. The committee was concerned on the demand for educational health and care plans, as has been described. And of course, at that time, John would be leading the scrutiny, Councillor Hubbard. So the committee recommended in its legacy report from the last council to continue oversight in this programme, and it will be on the Forward Work programme. And as you quite rightly say, Leader, it will be on tomorrow's Children's Select Committee, and they will be looking at the Forward Work programme. And obviously we will continue our work with interest and dedication. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Can I now offer a very warm welcome to Councillor Dominic Munns, who I think is the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Group, and invite him to comment and question on this paper, please.
Thank you, Ian. Apologies first from Richard. He can't be here today. He was requested by the CCN to attend and give evidence to Parliament on planning, specifically land values. Hopefully his experience will help to shed some light on the flawed planning system in this country. We can all hope that Angela Rayner listens this time and makes necessary changes. On to safety valve. Firstly, thank you to officers involved in the report and for members for their comments. Obviously, I'd rather be sat on that side of the table, but I am somewhat relieved to see a continuity and understanding when it comes to safety valve. Ian and Gavin, between yourselves, you've probably attended every cabinet meeting where safety valve has been discussed. John, previous chair of Children's Select, you know, there's probably no one in the building that knows more about safety valve and the impacts that the council faces as a result of it. And I also note with interest that you've appointed a portfolio holder specifically for safety valve, and that helps to reflect the importance, which is really crucial. At the handover of the administration 3 weeks ago, we left a balanced budget and we left our reserves intact. And this is really vital because of safety valve. You'll know from shared briefings, through cabinet meetings, through Children's Select, that the high needs block burden is significant. And as today's report shows, EHCPs continue to trend upwards. So this is not a problem that can be magicked away. For more than a year, we've all been aware of the financial pressures, not just with safety valve, but across the board. Adult social care is another good example. And John's statement is sobering, but in no way is it a surprise to any of us. The balanced budget, the intact reserves, they provide an important safety net for this council, which we need to support SEND and essentially cover the shortfall in financial support from central government. And Ian, you made the point, and it's absolutely right. This is not a political issue. This is not an issue that we've created in Wiltshire. This is not an issue that's unique to Wiltshire. This stems from poor funding from central government. But it is us that needs to pick up the pieces. So all I would say is thank you for your attention. Please never take your eyes off safety valve, and reflect on John's statement, where he mentioned the benefits of early intervention work, because that is starting to pay dividends and it will continue to do so. Thank you.
Dominic, thank you very much indeed. Again, not that it needs re-emphasising, this is one of the absolutely central missions of this council, this administration. I think it's also really important that we ensure that all members are very aware of the challenge and threat that this particular issue that we face right across the council. So no, thank you very much for that. Is there anything else you want to add at this stage? Okay, fine. I'm now going to invite other members. If anybody else would like to make a comment, ask a question. Nobody's rushing forward, so I'm going to take that as a no. And I'm now going to invite Councillor Hubbard to move the proposal. I think we're noting the proposals, John, but could you move them in order for us to note them, please?
Indeed, so thank you, Chair. Yes. So I ask that Cabinet notes the monitoring report as provided to the DFE, in April, and the feedback received from that. That we note that the statement from the DFE in response to the Council's request for an extension is that the statutory I'll start that again. That we note the statement from the DFE in response to the Council's request for an extension to the Safety Valve Agreement as outlined in the report, and we note the continued risk relating to the statutory override, which is due to expire in April 26.
the Cotswolds and Cranbourne Chase National Landscape Plans. Can I just open by thanking officers for what is, if Richard were here, he'd describe it as the magnum opus, I'm sure. The extraordinary document, which undoubtedly we have all read word for word, but it's a very impressive and comprehensive document. So thank you very, very much indeed for that. I'm now going to turn to my colleague, Councillor Foster, to introduce the report. Adrian.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this National Landscape Draft Management Plan is here for adoption. The Cotswolds National Landscape and the Cranbourne Chase National Landscape are two of the three national landscapes we have. And just in case there is some confusion, they used to be called areas of outstanding national beauty, and in some of the legal documents they still are. It's just a title change, nothing else has changed. And I'm very grateful to the officers for the time and effort they put in to explain all of how this all worked and the history behind it, together with this very lengthy document, which made interesting reading, especially if you're late at night and you want to go to sleep. So the short overview of this is that the paper is seeking approval to endorse the new Cotswold Management Plan for 2025 to 2030 and adopt the Cranbourne Chase Partnership Plan 2025 to 2030. These plans are vital for the future of our national landscapes, legally known as areas of outstanding national beauty, or ANOBs. Under Section 89 of the Countryside and Rights of Way Act 2000, the Council is required to prepare and publish management plans of any AONB within our boundaries. These plans guide how we conserve and enhance the natural beauty of these areas and how we work with the partners to deliver on that vision. There are two draft management plans here for consideration, as I mentioned, out of the three we have. The Cranbourne Chase Plan has been updated following a new national guidance and public consultation. It now includes new chapters on nature recovery, climate change, and water, and it aligns with the national targets set by DEFRA. It highlights three urgent priorities: reversing nature's decline, tackling the climate emergency, and improving public health through access to nature. The Cotswold Plan, meanwhile, builds on recent work and focuses on similar goals: climate action, nature recovery, and making the landscape more accessible to all. Although only a small part of the Cotswolds lies within Wiltshire, the Council has played an active role in shaping this plan to reflect our local priorities. Both plans are the result of a strong collaboration between the local authorities, national landscape boards, and the communities. So therefore, by endorsing and adopting these plans, Wiltshire Council is fulfilling its legal duties and reaffirming its commitment to the environmental leadership that we have. I don't think there's anything in here that is contentious, and they're all things that we strongly believe in and advance, and therefore I recommend this for adoption.
Adrian, thank you very much indeed. Are there any comments or questions? I think Gordon's hand was just ahead of Mel.
Thank you, Leader. And thank you, Adrian, for your introduction to these two incredible documents. What impressed me very much when reading through them is the way in which the authors have picked their way through a myriad of legislation and regulation and worked together collaboratively and collectively to produce these two pieces of work. It is, by any measure, a model of working together. I am particularly pleased, like Adrian, that climate and water have been separated out as two within this document as for individual prominence, because they are very great indicators of both environmental well-being and environmental harm. And for that sense, I am truly grateful. I have no trouble in seconding Adrian's motion for adoption, and I do commend this work and thank everybody involved for their great work in this.
Gordon, thank you. I think I've got Mel and then John. And then Paul.
Yes, it's a fantastic report, and thank you to everyone who's put a huge amount of work into that. My question it is a long report, and is there any way or plan to make a sort of, and I don't know how you would do it, a sort of summarised version that would be shared with the communities? Because how can you do something? I don't know how you do it, but it feels like it's a fantastic thing that needs to be celebrated. But obviously unlikely that most members of the public are going to read it all. So whether we can look at a way of, I don't want to make it into a soundbite, but you know what I mean, to try and celebrate that and get that information out.
I'm happy to defer to the officers to answer this one.
Sarah, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's an excellent suggestion. It's one we'll definitely take back to both the national landscapes and see what we can do to work with them and explore if there's a way that we can summarise it. I don't have an answer for you straight away today, but it's definitely something we'll take back and ask them to look at.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I suspect this is a question that it would be unfair to expect an instant response to, but it is one I'd like perhaps to be taken away and considered, which is how will the council balance the objective climate targets set out in these plans, including the net zero by 2050 and significant increases in tree cover, which is to be welcomed, with the ongoing development pressures that we face, particularly given that both plans call for enhanced biodiversity net gain requirements of 20% rather than the national target of 10%.
I can share my limited knowledge on that with you, John. It is a challenge, but we have had developments in the areas of outstanding national beauty, now called national landscapes. And it does mean that the cost for the developer is more stringent, but it's still achievable. And there is a need for housing in rural areas. But it has to meet the criteria that's within here. In other words, it has to be a building that is designed and looks right for that community. And that's not a bad thing to have across the rest of the piece, really, but it does make developments in these particular areas more restrictive, but they are achievable. But then there's an offset, every time you build a development, the developer has to make a certain amount of profit, the land owner will want a certain amount of money. And so therefore, when you come to 106 agreements and SIL payments and things like that, you have to take it into consideration because every development, as under the rules, have to be affordable to go ahead. And the staff have a very passionate desire to not only create this policy, but to make it a live and living document. And we have discussed one or two developments in these areas of outstanding national beauty already. And we've overcome some of the issues that the developer had in obtaining social housing in particular into a village. So it is achievable. It's just a little bit more work. Thank you.
Smith.
I'm
Thank you.
delighted to join the other members who've congratulated particularly the members of our team in producing a couple of excellent documents. They've worked really hard to achieve that. That's been a really clear in the quality of the work produced. It's been spell checked, which is something which we were discussing earlier today. Not all of the documents that have come before us have been spell checked, so which is great. But more importantly, I think this is a piece of work which reflects the unique gift and character which we've inherited in Wiltshire. One of our greatest strengths is the beauty of our environment. The rolling downs, the wonderful woodlands which date back to prehistory, the wonderful waters and rivers that we have flowing through, and it has become a county which has a reputation throughout the globe. People come here from all over to see England in its most natural state. So it is appropriate that we do everything we can in the national landscapes which we've inherited to protect them. And this is a key document. These are key documents in doing that. And I have good news for those of you who like reading lengthy documents. We have another one coming in a few weeks' time, I think to the next cabinet or the one after that, the September cabinet, when we'll be looking at another similar document. So this is something which I am sure is a great credit to the staff team here and all of the partners that we work with in helping to protect our wonderful environment.
Thank you, Paul. Some of that was almost poetic, I felt. So, but I'm going to move on to Helen, Gavin, and then we'll finish with Martin. So, Helen.
Thanks. Yeah, follow that. I'm going to just concentrate on one specific aspect. In the Cotswolds natural landscape document, which both are very, very thorough indeed, as other members have commented, there's a little section called "The Future Should Be Bright," and there'll be a similar section in the Cranbourne Chase one as well, where it talks about working towards ensuring that the Cotswolds stays a working landscape where agriculture thrives, supply chains are secure, communities should be connected and diverse, visitors should feel welcome to enjoy being here, confident about access and motivated to give something back. This should be a place where the landscape, nature and people work in harmony with each other. And I'm sure actually we would want that across the county, not just in the 2 or 3 natural landscape figures. So I'm hoping that we can work from a business perspective to open up channels with the relevant authorities in these places to look at developing all businesses, and that includes tourism and agriculture in sustainable and self-sustaining ways. And I'm hoping that officers can help us do that.
Thank you, Helen. Gavin, please.
Thank you, Ian, and I too reflect the importance and significance of this paper. But forgive me if I strike a slightly discordant note, which is not aimed at the authors of this document or any of our colleagues that have been involved in it, but bluntly is aimed at the government, because I wish Richard all the very best in his presentations today and the representations I know he's made in the past, and I'm sure will continue to do so, to persuade this government to listen to rural communities. And I note with anxiety the proposals in the Infrastructure and Planning Bill, which propose to remove the requirements for biodiversity net gain from smaller developments. And it's often, as you've heard, these smaller developments which take place in the national landscapes or very close to them. I also note the announcements anticipated and already made in cuts to agricultural support for farmers on nature. And as Helen has rightly said, those working in these communities are of vital consequence, but the vast majority of those working in these communities are farmers who take pride in their role as the protectors of our heritage and of our landscape. This government, in the proposals it has taken on the farm tax on inheritance, on cuts to farm support for nature, and suggestions of other moves that the government may make and may announce tomorrow, which will adversely impact on rural communities. And I applaud the stand that's been taken by the County Wildlife Trust, our own Wiltshire Wildlife Trust amongst them, and by the RSPB, and applaud the efforts being made by the Member of Parliament for the South Cotswolds that straddles both Wiltshire and Gloucestershire in Ros Savage, who has a significant part of the Cotswolds national landscape in her constituency, and other members of Parliament to call this government to account. It is wonderful to have these glorious words and the poetic language of our cabinet colleague, but we have to turn these into tangible actions, Ian and colleagues, and we need the government to change their viewpoint from appearing to fail to understand the challenges in rural communities and apparently failing to understand the realities of rural life. Forgive me if that's a rather discordant note.
That's absolutely fine, Gavin. Thank you for that. Poetry in its own way, I would say, but nonetheless, let's move on. I think we're going to finish in terms of cabinet contributions with Martin. Martin. I don't think we can hear you, Martin, I'm afraid. I think we're having a communications problem. I think, Martin, we'll move on, and then if you're able to reconnect, so to speak, then we'll bring you back into the... No, you're not. It's still not working for us. It's.
I'd suggest you go out of the meeting and come back in.
We think you might like to go out of the meeting and come back in. It's the more modern switch it off and switch it on again, I think, isn't it, really? So, so Martin, you stand ready, and we hope the technology will work for you. I'm now going to move us on to Councillor Munns, please.
Thank you, Ian. Just a very brief comment from me, just to thank officers for their time in preparing the report. I'm not going to make any further comment. I'm actually going to hand over to my far more learned colleague, Councillor Wayman, who will speak on the matter.
Thank you very much. Can I just say I'm very aware of the excellent work that Bridget has done in terms of the south of the county project at Cranbourne Chase. So I'm very keen to hear from you, Bridget. And then I'm going to invite our officers, if you have any additional comments, Sarah and Lynn, then please do introduce your comments at that point. But Bridget, carry on.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, I have represented the council on the Cranbourne Chase management body for some time now. And as Wiltshire Council are the host authority for the Cranbourne Chase, I've also had the pleasure of signing off Farming in Protected Landscapes grants. So I've seen a lot of the good work that has gone on across the whole of the Cranbourne Chase in enhancing biodiversity and nature. So, and I think it's really important. I thoroughly applaud the adoption of these management plans. I have just one slight caveat, which is paragraph 47. It says that it is therefore proposed that the Cranbourne Chase and Cotswolds National Landscape Management Plans be adopted and endorsed respectively for use as, and the first bullet point says, part of the evidence base for the review of the local plan. Now, I know that all the national landscapes within Wiltshire have been trying to get a national landscapes policy written into our local plan, and they have not been able to achieve that. I don't understand why not. Strategic planners have had discussions, and then that tailed off to nothing. Now, I think we need to make sure that we do have a policy written into the next local plan, particularly if this government, under the Planning and Infrastructure Bill, are going to make, we don't know what's going to happen to our very precious landscape. So I think we have got to be a lot stronger in writing into our local plans that we are going to not just conserve and enhance, but with the additional LURA rewording that we have to seek to enhance rather than just have regard to the national landscapes. We've got to be a lot more positive about it. We have these beautiful landscapes. We have got to protect them. So I do hope that the Cabinet member for planning and the officers will take this on board and ensure that we have a proper policy written into the next local plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Both excellent points. I'm going to invite Adrian to respond, and I might invite our Director of Planning, Nick Thomas, to comment as well.
Well, a big thank you to Bridget for bringing that to our attention. And yes, we will have the conversation. Obviously, the next local plan will be a long way off, unfortunately. Yeah, well, yes. The last one took 10 years to produce, so we'll see. But yes, we will have that conversation, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. Much appreciated.
Nick, please.
This part of the plan was before my time when this was produced, but I'm trying to get an answer from the team.
I suspect the answer relates to what is covered by national planning policy versus what we can do at a local level. So there's already obviously strong policy guidance within the national planning policy framework relating to development in the national landscapes. And government guidance is that you don't replicate or try to impose different standards than perhaps is in national policy. And that's where you can come unstuck at examination. So I suspect that's why. So it's not through any particular reason to dilute the strength and the policy position in relation to national landscapes. It's probably more a logistical issue about whether or not we are able to or not able to. So yes, I think that's probably the answer. Yes, my colleague has confirmed that is probably the reason why we didn't do that.
Bridget, do you want to come back on that?
I understand that you don't replicate what's written into the national planning policy framework or anything else, but I do think that we can be a lot better and a lot stronger in protecting our national landscapes. So I hope that officers will look at it, that they will have a dialogue with all three national landscapes that form part of Wiltshire, and that they take on board the desire of those national landscapes to see a policy written into the local plan. They have tried to do this and they have been thwarted, so it would be helpful if they could do it. And just to come back to Adrian's point, I mean, we have now got, I'm sure we're going to be embarking on reviewing the local plan almost as soon as we heard this current one has gone through examination because of the additional housing numbers that the government has imposed on us. So it's imperative, I think, that we move really quickly on reviewing the local plan. I don't want to see it happening in 10 years' time. We've got to move smartish on this and get this sorted out. Otherwise, we're going to be plagued with all sorts of unwanted developments across the whole county. Thank you.
We have no disagreement there at all, Bridget.
Bridget, thank you. I'm just wondering if Nick and your team can just issue a briefing note so that we've got something in writing to look at. I take Bridget's point completely about being much more explicit in terms of our requirements, in terms of defending these incredible parts of our county. So I think we're all on the same page. Anything else to add, Bridget or Dominic? We can move on.
Well, I know that if the national landscapes have been and have a prepared policy, I think that the National Association of National Landscapes have got a policy that can be included in all the local plans. So I don't see why we can't just move ahead and get that included.
I'm going to allow Nick, just one quickly to come back on that. And
Thank you. Just briefly, yeah. So the areas of the national landscapes are covered within both the existing plan and the new policy. Now, whether or not we wanted to strengthen that is something to consider. The other thing to be mindful of is the government are proposing to introduce national development management policies, and the idea is that we have fewer policies within local plan, more policies at a national level to give that protection. But yeah, it's a good point. Happy to take this away. Happy to also do a short briefing note on that point. Yeah, it's a relevant point. I think we need to take into account.
yes, I think leading with Bridget's point, I think there's we're conforming around this particular viewpoint, I think. So if you could reflect that, Nick, I think we'd be very grateful. I'm wondering, Martin, if you're now communicating with us. I think we've lost Martin. Semaphore might be the only way of... yes, exactly. Well, actually, he can hear us clearly, but we can't hear him. There's something coming through, but I don't want to keep us sitting here in the hope we might hear the odd word coming through. So I'm very sorry, Martin, that if it's a problem on our front and our side, then I apologise. I'd just like to invite Sarah and Lynn, if you've got anything else you'd like to add. It would seem a shame given the amount of time that you've put into the document, so please.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of both of the National Landscapes and the staff that have been working there, and with Lynn's teams who've been helping to facilitate and input into this as well. There's a lot of work, as you said, that's gone on into the work to produce both of these plans. We're very excited to see them, and we're very pleased that you're hopefully in a minute going to endorse the plans and enable us to use that as additional support and evidence to help protect the national landscapes. I'm very pleased that we'll be bringing the final one, which will be for North Wessex Downs, to you within this financial year as well.
Thank you very much, and it will be remiss of me not to invite comments or questions from other members, should you wish to make them. Again, nobody's rushing up to the table. And so on that basis, I'm going to move forward. Thank you, Bridget, and thank you for all you do for Cranbourne Chase in particular. Thank you very much.
If you'll indulge me, could I just suggest that perhaps we ask, when Adrian moves his motion, we might be able to tap into it something about, in asking for the briefing note, that we're looking for positive reasons by which we can adopt these, taking on board all Bridget had to say, into our policies, rather than reasons why we should not. Because I think there was a lot of nods around the table I was seeing as we were discussing this. There's clearly a matter here where there's consensus. And I think that perhaps we need to make it a matter of fact that this Cabinet and this Council is supportive of these policies and trying to bring them into our sort of regimented system.
Thank you for that, John. Gavin, this is relevant to the point that's being made.
It is. I want to second John's proposal. Malmesbury is, which I have the privilege of representing, is the gateway to the Wiltshire end of the Cotswolds National Landscape, and I know that my good colleague Councillor Martin Smith, who envelops me, Chairman, his division surrounds. Well, his division surrounds Malmesbury, so I'm aware of I'm encircled by Martin, and in fact represents the area board on the Cotswolds National Landscape, which he may wish to talk about if we've been able to hear him. So I think if Kieran could guide, through you, Chairman, if Kieran could guide us with an appropriate form of words, which would reflect the enthusiasm which I think we were about to discover through John's amendment of this Cabinet for supporting the work of our three national landscapes and looking at ways in which, either through policy or through the local plan, we can enhance their status and express our support. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I say I'm very happy to accept. I don't think we've ever had an amendment at a Cabinet meeting as far as I can remember. So we're breaking new ground as we speak. So, John, thank you so much for that. We need a form of words though, don't we?
Yes, I mean, I think the sort of general sentiment is clear. So if the Cabinet are happy to if Councillor Hapgood sort of repeats the general point, and then you can delegate the final wording, which can then be, sure there's no, I don't imagine there would be, to make sure there's no legal issues, and it'll be circulated around the Cabinet to make sure they're happy with that, rather than trying to sort of write one on the fly.
I think that's very sensible. John, can you just summarise? I think we know where you're coming from, but just for the sake of propriety, so to speak, in governance, if you could just summarise what you've just said, and then we'll take a vote on the amendment, and then we'll take a vote on the substantive motion.
I mean, if you're happy to just accept it, you don't have to vote on the amendment. You can just do that's friendly.
It sounds more fun, doesn't it? But anyway, come on, Bridget, join us in the debate.
Chairman, or Leader, why don't you just say, and so you've got the proposal there, and you could add, and look to including a policy for national landscapes within the review of the local plan.
What she said.
You see, this is cross-party working at its best, isn't it? Fantastic. John, you're happy with it? I think we're happy with it. I'm going to take Kieran's advice. What I'd like Adrian to do, because we have to do it, is just to read the proposal. We're cognizant of the contribution that Bridget just made. So if you read the proposal, and then we'll move to the vote on the combined motion, so to speak.
Yes, fine. I just want clarity that what Bridget is suggesting, John's suggesting, we all agree with, doesn't affect this particular vote now. It's to do with the local plan. It's not to do with the document we're dealing with.
Correct.
Okay. So the proposal is that we endorse and adopt these plans that are before us. Then Wiltshire Council will be fulfilling its legal duties and reaffirming its commitment to the environment and its leadership of that environment.
And then we're including the amendment that Councillor Wayman's just offered that we're very happy with. Can I see those in favour?
Isn't your second?
Thank you, Bridget. Welcome aboard,
Thank you,
Bridget.
Bridget.
Bridget,
That
thank you
won't turn
very,
off.
very much for your contribution. That's very much appreciated. We're going to move on to item 8, temporary agency staffing procurement. Pages, a slightly shorter report, pages 261, 268. I'm going to ask Councillor Mel Jacob, Deputy Leader of the Council, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Ian. Can I just start by saying thank you to the HR team who've prepared the report, which hopefully you've had a chance to look at. The summary of what we're trying to do is seek approval to begin a competitive procurement process for a new contract to supply temporary agency staff, and that will replace the current contract, which expires on the 21st of September this year. I think the important thing, not wanting to read out the whole report, but just the key things are to remember that the council does need agency staff, although we are always striving to recruit permanent appointments. There are a number of reasons why we do need agency staff. Those include where it's hard to fill roles and recruitment's a bit of a challenge, and we might have gaps between permanent appointments. There might be services or skills that we need for project work, and also to cover short-term absences or urgent gaps. And it does, although this contract talks about 20 million over 4 years, it does vary month to month, obviously depending on what's going on in the different services that we're operating. But the important thing is that we do need that consistency of service, and without agency staff we wouldn't be able to provide that. I think it feels like, it is a lot of money, and it feels like a lot of money. But I think if you look at the trend over time, I think there's some details in the report, you will see that there is a downward trend in terms of our use of agency, and comparatively with other councils, we are spending less. That doesn't mean that justifies the amount we spend, and I'm reassured by the team that we are trying to recruit to permanent appointments where possible. But there will always be times where agency staff are the best solution. So what this contract would give us is a 3-year contract with the option to extend for a year. And it's funded from existing budgets, so it's not additional spend, it's already in the budget. And that's sort of really all I want to say. I mean, obviously happy to take questions. It is something that we need to do. We need to meet our legal obligations, so we do have to have this contract in place. But really happy to take questions and try and answer them.
Thank you indeed. Any questions or comments? John?
Thank you, Chair. You may recollect, or you may not, I don't know, that we've recently introduced we went through a big transformation programme and introduced a new Oracle system. I chaired the scrutiny that looked into that. I note in the report, it comments on the integration with the new Oracle ERP is a core requirement, I think is the word, yes, core requirement of anybody tendering for the work. I'm just wanting to check that we're sending out full technical specifications on what those requirements are. Too many times you see, in fact, we even had it with Oracle where the salesman promised X and the reality was the delivery was Y. So I'm just wanting to check that we're putting in the safeguards to ensure that if somebody says that they are compliant with Oracle, they actually are, and that we have contingency plans for just in case they were, let's call it, mistaken.
Thanks for the question, John. Yes, as far as I'm aware, obviously we've spent a lot of money, we've invested a lot of money in Oracle, and we absolutely need whatever agency we go with to be able to integrate their systems with that, because that helps us plan how agency are, I think, if I've understood it correctly, how we're requesting and filling the gaps and allocating staff. I don't know the details of any technical specification, but I will certainly make sure that I ask that question. I'm sure that is in place. Lizzie's there, ready to answer me, but obviously we've invested in Oracle and we want to make sure we integrate, and I totally understand your point about people promising things and not being able to deliver them. So that's absolutely key part of the work that we're doing. I'll let Lizzie talk about technical specifications.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, John, for your question. It will be about file formats and data requirements rather than very technical details about Oracle and how it does process. So it will be, I'm going to say, relatively simple in its technical aspects, but we will absolutely ensure that that is included so those bidders do understand what those requirements are. Otherwise, they can't bid against it.
Thank you, Liz. Are you happy with that answer, John? Gavin, please.
Thank you, Ian. So again, colleagues, so I can just draw your attention to paragraph 33 on page 267 of the Cabinet papers and the significance of both sentences which are there. So you see the trend which is reflected in the previous paragraph in terms of our agency spend here, and you will note it in that envelope of 3.8 million to 5.19 million. But please note also that in 2018-2019 that spend was up around 8 million. So there's a lot of very good work which both Mel and John have alluded to, and I pay tribute to all those who are involved in driving down that spend while fulfilling our statutory requirements and the needs to support vulnerable people. But I'd also particularly, if I may, draw Cabinet colleagues and other colleagues in the room's attention to the second sentence there, which in essence gives you the roadmap as to how and why that success is being achieved. So to decode this a little bit, I think colleagues will be becoming very familiar with the terms POBs and POGs, which is not some slightly bizarre Eastern European ethnic minority group, but rather the Performance Outcomes Boards, which exists throughout this council. And I again applaud officers and colleagues who've introduced this way of working, which therefore means there's a very keen focus on ensuring efficiency and value for money here while delivering the services that we are expected to deliver and that we all want to deliver. We then, and it's a kind of gentle plea for the transparency of all of this, that we try and avoid acronyms in papers and when we talk to each other. So that the CLT, if you're wondering what that is, it's not a variation of the BLT, absorbed for lunchtime. It's the corporate leadership team, which are our most senior officers. So those two groups, which are of our staff, being very focused here on ensuring efficiency and value for money, is then supplemented, importantly, by the degree of scrutiny which members should bring to the table. And that's where the Staffing Policy Committee, which is, as you know, Ian and colleagues know, is made up of members of this council, can bring their scrutiny to bear. So we are being very rigorous in this space, and I applaud all of those who are involved in it to deliver the services that are needed and required and expected of us to a level and quality that we can all be proud of, and delivering the financial efficiency which we must do to sustain the performance and sustainability of this council. Thank you.
Gavin, any more from Cabinet? No, thank you very much. I'm now going to move to Councillor Graham Wright with his scrutiny hat on. Graham.
Thanks, Chair. Well, this was the first bit of scrutiny that has been achieved in the council since we've the election. We had a good presentation from Councillor Jacob. We had lots of questions. You were present, so you'd remember, but we spoke around IR35. We spoke around the impact of agency procurement on the council budget. We looked at further detail on financial impact and agency procurement. We thought it was an excellent report, and we could find no fault whatsoever from a scrutiny perspective. So from scrutiny's view, we're quite happy for you to look at this in a positive light and obviously make your cabinet decision as you so wish. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Graham. I'm going to move to Dominic. Dominic.
Thank you, Ian. Just sort of following on from Graham's point there, I was watching the committee meeting last week. There were numerous questions, I think it's fair to say, posed to Mel and also to Tamsin. The significant one is simply that temporary agency staff represent a significant cost to the council, and so there were concerns raised about that. Tamsin explained the need for flexibility with agency staff. You know, there are places where actually it's more appropriate to have temporary agency staff than permanent members of the team. And Mel, you mentioned the need to expand and contract, you know, to maintain a consistency of service, which are all valid points, and they came up in discussion last week. My main concern is one of the abundance of temporary agency staff creating a safety net for us, which then leaves us with reduced pressure and reduced drive to go and make those permanent recruitments where it's more appropriate. So my simple question is for you, Mel, can you reassure us that recruitment drive will continue across the council to reduce the reliance on temporary agency staff and obviously the impact of the budget?
Yes, you know, as I've already said, I think the first port of call where it's appropriate and it's a permanent position is to make, you know, to recruit to that position. There are some small pieces of work which might not be appropriate for it to be a permanent position, so project work or so forth, but the overriding ambition is to recruit permanent members of staff where possible.
Happy, Dom?
I am, thank you.
Excellent, thank you
Yeah,
very
can
much.
I just add to Mel's answer on that? Because I think there's a very important,
Of course.
I think the Cabinet Member for Finance would agree with me wholeheartedly on this one. There's an incentive to every member of the Cabinet to make sure that our teams are not reliant on agency staff, which is that agency staff will eat through our budgets significantly faster than establishment staff. And one of the first questions I certainly had for the DCS when this first came up with was, what is our level of agency staff now? And I actually, Dom, I give credit to those who came before us, that when I first got involved in scrutiny on children's services, we were looking at 60% plus of our social workers being agency staff. I think, Darryl, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said that we have 9 agency workers working for us in children's services now, which is such a massive reduction. And that's how, you know, we help keep budgets under control. So the incentive for us, as I'm sure you're aware, to make sure that we don't rely on agency staff isn't that safety net of, gosh, it's easy, but it's that, or we can actually sit within the very constrained budgets that we've all got to work within.
Thank you, John.
If I may, I find
Gavin.
myself in riotous agreement with
who, Gavin?
John.
With who? Oh, John, okay.
Well, hopefully with you, Ian, as well, and note that important contribution. And I'm sure all of our Cabinet colleagues were paying very strict attention to this matter, as it will apply to every single one of them. And of course, the infrastructure that is referred, if I may, through you, Ian, on paragraph 33, is an infrastructure of scrutiny in efficiency and delivery, which applies across the work of the council as a whole. So to reassure Dominic, we are watching this like the proverbial hawks that increasingly occupy the Wiltshire skies. Thank you.
Or red kites, but we know what you mean. But we're in riotous agreement on that as well. I'm going to invite colleague members, if you would like to make a contribution. And again, nobody's rushing forward. So I'm going to invite Councillor Jacob to move the proposals and seek a seconder, please.
So I would like to ask for the Cabinet to approve a new contract for temporary agency staffing to be commissioned via a competitive procurement process compliant with relevant procurement legislation. That we delegate authority to deal with all matters relating to the competition, the award of the contract and any future extensions of the contract to the Director of HR and Organisational Development in consultation with the Cabinet members responsible for finance and staffing. And thirdly, that we approve a contract term of 3 years with the option to extend for a further 12 months with an estimated cost of 20 million for a 4-year period funded by existing budgets within services. And I'd ask for a seconder. Thank you, Claire.
All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed to everybody that contributed to that debate. We move on to item 9. There are no urgent matters. There are no part 2 items. I'm hoping we can keep all of our cabinet meetings as short as this, but I'm not that optimistic. But not the next one, clearly. Thank you, Mel. So can I thank everybody for being here and look forward to seeing you at the extraordinary cabinet meeting in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you very much indeed. What's this thing here? It's off the back of that.